Okay. Good evening. As you know, this was supposed to have been an in-person book launch in Ginot Shomron this evening. And for various reasons, we decided to go virtual this time. Also opening up to anybody else who was outside Ginot Shomron, so made it a little nicer also for other people to be able to join here on Zoom. Let me tell you what I'd like to do. I'm going to talk a little bit about background about the book, how it came to be. This is the book here called The Three Images, and I'll explain the title and what it is in a few minutes. I'll give a little bit of background to it. I'm going to read one of the stories from the book and then end with something short that's not connected to this book. So, because, let's see, basically everyone on the screen knows a little bit about me, in some cases a lot about me. You do know that the last 10 years that I was in Chicago, we made Aliyah 13 years ago. The last 10 years that we were living in Chicago, I was the Rav of KJBS, affectionately known in Chicago, of course, as Rabbi Frank Schul. And for years, even after I was the rabbi, I still said I was the Rabbi Frank Schul. And Sarah, since you're not from Chicago, in Chicago, it tends to be the Shuls are named after their rabbi, and sometimes the name sticks around for years, even after the rabbi's long gone. So that was the reason it was called that, because Rabbi Frank was my rabbi growing up, and then he said I became his rabbi when I took over. In any case, when a Rav does his job right, and I'm talking in North America, not Israel, when Rav does his job right, when it comes to the Yamim Noraim, starting Rosh Hashanah until Simchat Torah, at the minimum, there's going to be 9 speeches given, the minimum. And sometimes there's more, and sometimes you have a little side speeches, a quick little Dvar Torah between Mincha Mar, but all kinds of stuff. And that's the most intense group of speeches the whole year. And not only is the most compact in one area, but it's also the most, say, watched. I don't mean videoed. I'm saying the people want to see what you're saying, because Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Shabbat Shuvah, they're looking for some kind of inspiration. So I became the rabbi in June of 1999, and that meant I had 2 or 3 months until the Yamim Noraim were going to begin. And I did not want to be in a situation where I was going to get up on the night of Yom Kippur, which could probably be the most challenging of all the speeches. I'll explain why in a moment. And I didn't want to give a garden variety, do tshuva, rah, rah, rah. We all have to do the right thing the next 25 hours, because it's just really saying the same thing that most people say every year. Now, why did I say that it's a difficult evening to speak? Because people are coming to shul after having just stuffed themselves with food. They're sitting there and they're thinking about the next 25 hours that they're not going to be able to eat or drink. How long is the rabbi going to speak? How many times do we have to stand up and sit down? Is there going to be an appeal? Again, I'm talking North America. How long is the davening going to be? When's it going to be over? When's our break? It's endless, these thoughts that run through someone's head. And really one of the last things that most people are thinking about at that moment is, wow, I can't wait to hear the rabbi speak tonight. It's not very normal. And I knew that, having been on the other side of the podium, so to speak, for many, many years. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to do a little hook. And just parenthetically, I did a number of strange things when I was the rabbi there. Just one has nothing to do with the book. I'm just going to mention to you that over the years, things popped into my head. On the Shabbat of Parshat Tetzaveh, I think my second year there, I came in a tuxedo to shul Shabbat morning, a little bit over the top. And I walk into shul and everybody's looking at me like, what's going on? And it was just like the week before Purim, because it's usually around Purim. And they all thought I was coming dressed up because of Purim. I said, no, nothing to do with Purim. And then as davening starts continuing and people keep coming in, I'm already at the point where I can't talk. And people give me this look like, what? I said, just like this, just wait, we'll see. Absolutely everyone who came in looked at me differently that day. So I got up to talk, and I give my Dvar Torah. It was Parshat Tetzaveh. I started talking about the Parsha and about the Kohen Gadol and the Kohen Hediot, the regular Kohen and the high priest. And I said, there's 4 special things that a regular Kohen would wear. And the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, would wear 8. I said, why? Why did he have to wear 8? He said, because of his level of holiness, his Kedusha, he had to stick out. I said, why did you all look at me? I have a tie on, it's a bow tie. I have a dark suit. You have a dark suit. It's different. It's more formal. I stuck out. Quite unusual to what you'd be used to. And that's why the Kohen Gadol had to do that to make sure that he stuck out. And I did things like that over the years. This isn't about, my 10 years as a rabbi, but the night of Yom Kippur, I did want to do something different. And I had an idea. And you'll see in the book, if you get it, you'll see the background to what was the specific idea that set this off. But the basic idea was that I wanted to share with people images. I'm very much have always been, even before I was a rabbi, even especially since, my writing in various ways very often revolves around imagery, because to tell somebody that the building was big is different than trying to create an image of King Kong on the top of the Empire State Building. Gives you this different image. So I was always into imagery. I thought maybe I can come up with 3 images, things that either I witnessed, I was aware of, happened to me, and then share them with people. And from there, that they were just nice images, but there were some powerful stories, and then give a lesson, a life lesson, yes, for Yom Kippur, but in general, the ideas for introspection and thinking about your life and thinking about your community, thinking about God. So the original goal was I was going to give a speech with 3 images and 3 lessons to be learned from each, and that would be it. After the Chagim, I happened to have gotten a lot of comments, and compliments on that talk. And I thought, okay, look, people seem to like it. I figured maybe I'll try it again the next year, the same formula. So I decided to do it again the next year, and people liked it again. So I decided to continue doing it year after year. And I was the Rav there for 10 years. So every year I did 3 images times 10. Even my little math challenged brain will tell you 10 times 3 is 30. So I had altogether 30 images with 30 life lessons and 30 morals and stories and everything. And I thought some of them were actually quite powerful. So I decided, it's kind of like a book. I might as well put it into a book format, and talked about it with my beloved Andy, my wife, to whom this book is dedicated, I will add. And he said, okay, it's time to do it. We made Aliyah, and of course that wasn't the first thing on my mind. It wasn't the second thing or the third thing on my mind. But eventually, every year it kept coming up, and as we kept getting closer to Elul every year, the time for introspection. By the way, you're allowed to do introspection and tshuva any day of the year, but it's a time, right? The season, so to speak. And as we got closer and closer every year, said, we missed another opportunity. I should have come out with the book. Okay, next year. Wait till next year. Wait till next year. It's like the Cubs. Wait till next year. So finally, this past year, in around October, right after the Chagim, I said, this is it. I'm going to do it this year. And I thought I was ready to go to a printer already. I had 10 speeches. I had all these years of speeches. I had 30 images. I had it set up and typed it in Word, and that's great. Actually, earlier than October. But I found out I was missing two points, 2 kind of critical things. Number one was it wasn't formatted for printing, easily taken care of. You have local gentleman here, Benji Hershkovitz, a genius in so many things when it comes to graphic design, art, and he was going to help me with that and do that in the typesetting. But probably the biggest hurdle was editing. Now, like in math, you can't, when it comes to your own work, it's hard to edit your own work because you'll see the same mistake over and over and you won't necessarily see it's okay, fine. So I need to have an editor. So I had been, until COVID, for a number of years, I was like a, quote, scholar in residence at the Ramat Rachel Hotel in Yerushalayim for Pesach. And over the years, made very new friends. And because I spoke 12 times there during the course of Pesach, more maybe, I think 12 times, besides doing the Seder. And people get to know you, they start to ask questions. And there's some woman named Rachel Lobel, and she doesn't ever want me to mention her name, but that's who I'm going to, who became close to me and to my wife and my daughters. And she had heard that I was going to come out with a book. And she offered to edit the book. Now, I did not know that she was a professional editor. I said, oh, I'd love to do that. I didn't think it would be a lot of work in my naive mind. But I said, let me know how much I have to pay you per hour. She said, no, I'm going to do it for free, which is why I'm mentioning her name. And she's credited in the book. I said, you're not going to do this for free. I'm sure there's a decent amount of work there. She said, no, she felt it was her whatever the word she used to do this, and decided she was going to do it. And I figured we'll go back and forth 2 or 3 times on email, change the comma here. When I got the first rewrite or edit, I almost fell down. I start just scrolling in the screen. I see hundreds of red marks. I said, how could it be that bad that needed so much editing? So I called her up, and I understood something then after we spoke that I didn't understand before. And that is that the book was basically written in a speaking voice, which meant if the title of the book were, Assorted Speeches of Rabbi Zev Shandalov, okay, that's a speech, but you're not writing speeches. What you need to do is they had to be put in a format and in a way that the listener can hear their own self with their voice, so to speak, in their head. Or if they know me, they'll hear my voice, but it's written in a very different format. So it's the same information, but reformatted in a not in a speaking voice. And you'll see when you look at the book, you'll understand it when you hear one of these stories in a few minutes. So we went back and forth many, 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 many times, read it, reread it, and Baruch Hashem, very happy and proud of how it came out at the end. And right at the middle of the month of June, I got it back from the printer. And I was very pleased how it physically turned out, how it looked, and decided, of course, I'm going to make it available to the public and to sell. But I was going to be leaving right away for the States, about a week, for the United States and Toronto, where my mom's originally from Toronto. So I had lots of family there. And I really didn't do anything except a local book launch here in Mitzpe Nevo in Ma'ale Adumim. So in the meantime, I said I was going to be going to Toronto. And I have a lot of family there. The purpose of us going was just to see family. It wasn't any other agenda except to see family. And on the last night that I was there with Andy, got together with many of my cousins, and we sat and read the story that I'm about to read to you in a moment. It's called My Zadie's Watch. And I'm looking around the table and realizing that everyone who was sitting at the table, it was their Zadie or great-grandfather who I was talking about. And it was a very emotional moment because, I've written the speech, I've given the speech, I've said it over a few times, but to say it to people who are part of the story, in a sense, was very powerful. So what I'd like to do is I'll just show you, first of all, again, the cover. This is not in person. It's called The Three Images, True Stories and Lessons for Introspection. And it has, what I will tell you also, I've written a couple other books. I'll mention that at the very end, in Hebrew. This is the first one I did in English. And I felt I needed some, and people don't necessarily know me outside my circle of those who do know me. I was like, I'm going to come out with a book. Like, who's going to know if it's good or not? So I took a chance and I sent a letter, an email to Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch Weinreb, the former executive vice president of the OU. And I asked him, because I've heard him speak and I met him a couple of times and seen his writing and I really like it, if he would look at my manuscript. This is months and months and months ago. If you'd read it and give me a comment that I can put, like on the back of a book or something. And I expected a little blurb like, great read, really enjoyed, highly recommend, something like next Pulitzer Prize book, something like that. Instead, he wrote me a magnificent letter of approbation, askama, that it's in the book, the part in the back of the book, and the rest is the front of the book itself. And I was truly honored to have his name inside this book as well. So I'm going to read this story. They're all short. They're all like 2 pages, at the most 2.5 pages. And I do recommend in the beginning of the book that you don't read the book. It's small. It's 114 pages, but not to read it straight through in one sitting or in a couple sittings. It's meant to be read and put down and come back to. I have people here in the neighborhood who told me they read one story a week at the Shabbat table. Other people read a couple stories when they want to, just to get a little bit of inspiration. And if you do read it cover to cover, then go back and reread, because there's a lot to gain, I hope, from each one of these stories, because there are certain stories, not all of them, there are multiple layers. You read the story, you hear the background, then you say, wait, there's even more to it. Okay, so this one's called My Zadie's Watch, and it is the image number 3 in the second chapter. The final image is my Zadie's watch. Although I grew up in Chicago, much of my family, including my maternal grandparents, lived in Toronto. We saw each other 2 or 3 times a year at most, but the relationship between them and our Chicago family was a close one. In the days before the internet, email, cell phones, our method of communication was letters and occasionally a phone call. While we all built a strong relationship with them, I was especially close to my Zadie, Shmuel Aaron Posner, Zichrono Livracha. In May of 1973, the inevitable happened. My Bubi, my grandmother, passed away. Then, in February of 1974, my Zadie passed away. I was devastated by the death of my Bubi, as she was the first person close to me who had died. But with the death of my Zadie, I was crushed. It was the end of an era on my mother's side of the family. Although I was only 15 years old at the time, there was a gaping hole in my heart that I felt would never heal. My family flew to Toronto for my Zadie's funeral. From the airport, we went straight to his apartment. I began to look around the rooms. I could hear his voice, feel his love, and see his mark everywhere. Then I walked into his bedroom. On his bed was his clothing, and I realized at that moment that those were the last things he had worn on this earth. Next to his clothing was his watch. I picked it up and held it in my hand. It was at that moment that I felt the gravity of his loss so acutely, and I began to wail inconsolably. I held his watch in my hand for what seemed like an eternity, and I cried like never before. I did not want to let go of it. As a matter of fact, for some inexplicable reason, it was as if I couldn't let go. Perhaps in my youthful mind, letting go of his watch was like letting go of Zadie. After the past many years, I have thought back to that day and that moment. What was it about that watch? And how had I become so close to my grandfather, who lived nearly 850 kilometers away? As I got older, I understood that the watch represented the time my Zadie had spent here on this earth. And at the moment when he died, his time stood still. In a certain sense, so did mine, with all of my memories of him frozen in time. But what about the long distance between us and the infrequent visits? How was it that in spite of the distance and separation, we had become so close? Then it dawned on me, love doesn't know any distance. No matter how far apart we were, it was love that bound us together. While there was a physical distance between us, there was absolutely no spiritual distance between us. I took this idea to the next step, and that is the reason why his watch is the third image. The same is true for our relationship with Hashem. In the times when we had a Beit HaMikdash, we visited Hashem 3 times a year through the mitzvah of Aliyat L'Regel, pilgrimage. Nowadays, some see him frequently, while others see him infrequently. However, for all of us, Hashem is not physically present, and in that sense, he is very distant. In a spiritual sense, he is very close to us. Love knows no distance. Hashem is always with us and as close as we choose. It is essential to realize that Hashem is as close to us as we let him be. That is what I learned from my Zadie's watch and what I think about on Yom Kippur. Let us remember that we are always under Hashem's watchful gaze. Let us remember to think about our shortcomings and how to change them to positives. We must always keep in mind that Hashem loves our efforts, always sees our positive deeds, and embraces us with fatherly love. And finally, let us remember that love knows no distance. And that's my Zadie's watch. Throughout the book, there are different images of, somewhat like I said, I'm involved in the image, like when I got 2 guns put to my head and thought that was the end of my life, or when I was almost in a plane crash. And there's one about a car crash, a crash that took place in the United States, a misidentification of victims, a couple of people within Chicago with the tragedies that we can learn from. There are other images of a cell phone an image of a baby, an image of something that leads to an unbelievable instant Havat Yisrael. And I'd like to think that the images are poignant enough and strong enough. Some will like more images other than others, which is perfectly normal. Not everyone's going to love every single image. That's just the way it is. Because people have different likes and dislikes when it comes to what they're trying to imagine. But that is the general idea of this book. And what I'd like to do is just spend 2 minutes, literally, at the end, to mention that I know that some of you know that last year, matter of fact, I was by the Kleins last year for a book launch for my first volume of Piyutim. So I had not planned it like this, but the same week that the book was delivered to me, the 3 images, the second volume of my Piyutim, Zmiot Azamer B'Piyut, which is the acrostic of my name, Zev, came back from the printer. And just so happened the 2 books came out within the same week. But it's the reason I'm mentioning it is not just because I want you to know about it. Maybe you want to buy it. That's fine. That's not the important part at the moment, is the dedication. I have a neighbor, we have a neighbor, Martin and Rhonda Lifshitz. And they had a son who passed away just a little over a year ago, just under 16 years old. He had been born with a heart problem. He had a heart transplant in the age of 6. And it was a miracle. He lasted almost 10 years with the new heart. And he passed away, like I say, a little over a year ago. And I was very close with him as his teacher, as his neighbor, as a mentor, as family, Rav, everything. And when he was born, they gave him a middle name, Chai, as a skula that he would live. And when he passed away, during his Shiva, or the Shiva for him, I wrote a piyut in his memory, an acrostic of his name, very long, Avigdor Chai Avraham, of which part of the piyut ended up on his matzeva. And I dedicated the book in his memory. And I mentioned his name was Chai because that's how many piyutim I decided to put in the book in his memory, 18. The 18 piyutim in the book in his memory. And similar to the 3 images, there's a lot of hargasha, there's a lot of feeling, there's a lot of thought. It's about relationship with Hashem, it's about Yerushalayim, it's about one where I imagine what it will be after 120 years plus, I hope much more, to stand before the Kisei HaKavod, what that experience would be like. So that's my pitch, so to speak, my evening. Now, what I'd like to do is I'm going to just show you on the screen. For those now, first before I show you on the screen, for those of you who are in Ginot, and I know this is on tape also, so other people see it. They'll hear this as well. A person, if you decide to buy the book, and I'll show you how to do that. Either someone is going to be coming from here to Ginot in the near future, and I'll have them delivered. Otherwise, if it's going to be a while, I will have them mailed. But what I'd like to show you, again, there's 0 obligation. But I want to put on the screen for those who are interested how this will work. Oh, let me move you over. Okay. The book is, by the way, the books are also available in Yerushalayim at Pomeranz Books. Bezrat Hashem, you're the first to know this, but hopefully this week or next week, but probably this week, the Jerusalem Post will have a review of the book. It's available, let's say, Pomeranz. It's available, it's going to be available online in the near future. I'm not going to get to that, but people who want to order it, for me, this is how it's done. Through Bit, Paybox, PayPal, it's 50 shekel. I have $18 for people from the States. And you can send me a text, send me a WhatsApp, just, so if you want to, if you're interested in the book, and I'll be more than happy to get one to you. I don't know, I've said the following sentence to a number of people, and I get this look from people like, I don't necessarily believe what you're saying, but I'm going to say it anyways. Both for the Piyut book and for the 3 images, I wish I could just take a stack of them and hand them out, because I did not get into this. I don't look at this as a career. I'm an author. That's fine, but that's not my career. My career is education, and I've been teaching for 25 years plus, formally and informally. And this, to me, is also a form of education. And I would like to just be able to give them away. And the tachlis, look at the way the world is. You gotta at least cover your costs. So that's why they have to be for sale. If I could, they would all just be given away. And I mean that sincerely. By the way, both books are 50 shekel, whichever one. So I'm going to leave this on the screen for a minute. I want to say thank you. Say thank you to Beverly Chucky for hosting, this evening. This is a wonderful evening that you hosted. I truly feel at home at this event, and wish you a full Shleima, Beverly. And for whoever was on tonight, thank you. And for whoever who will hear this later, so on YouTube, thank you very much as well. And you can contact me anytime. Obviously, if you want to buy 200 or 300 copies, price is cheaper. So actually, someone did ask me something about doing something for a group, like for a bar mitzvah or something. We can talk. Right now, again, my idea is just get the book out into people's hands. So if you have it, let me take it off of screen share. If you didn't get the information, I'll be happy to send it to you again. And this is, normally I have a Zoom that is unlimited, but I logged in this time with, to give the link in advance, I had to do with my regular Zoom, which is limited, which means I have 5 minutes and 8 seconds left. But I don't want to be remiss in also welcoming Yitzchak Spring. It's nice to have you with us this evening. Thank you very much. You know a little bit about authoring books. It's Farim as well. It's great to Yitzchak and I go back to kindergarten. I mean, literally. So Baruch Hashem, it's been a wonderful ride together. Yitzchak got to Israel a little bit before us. It's been 50 years now, right?
73, yeah. 50,
49 years.
Just about.
Yeah, because I remember right after high school. Right. Amazing.
Right.
Hashem, Baruch Hashem. So I'm very glad you could be on here this evening. Everyone else as well, of course. Sorry. Toda rabba. Toda. So like I say, you don't have to say, you're getting a book. Just send me a message. That's fine. Again, there's no pressure whatsoever. I'm not a great salesperson. So I thank you very much. And when the book review is in the newspaper, I'm going to post it on Facebook so other people can see it. Feel free to share it with every single person on earth that you know, and we'll go from there. A good evening. Now, I know this Shabbat is Ben Rosh Chodesh Elul, and so it's a little bit early, but I still want to wish you all a Shana Tova. It should be a wonderful year ahead, that the whole parsha of Corona Yamach Shema V'Zichra hopefully will be behind us, that we'll have only good things, and this year will be Yeshuot Nechamot, Ezrat Hashem. I wish you all a good evening, and again, thank you very much for your time, and just be well, be healthy, stay safe. Have a good evening, everyone. Amen. Toda rabba. Toda.